Haha! Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Charli XCX mixtape, Number One Angel. UK pop starlet Charli XCX is back with a new project, following up last year's awesome Vroom Vroom, which was my favorite EP of 2016. And a project that to me is really important in Charli's discography because it marks the moment of her turning a new leaf a little bit, because almost everything she's come out with up until that point, I hated. To be completely honest, yeah. Vroom Vroom is so awesome to me, not just because it's so colorful and risky and adventurous and strange and catchy and just bizarro, but also it's just a departure from the bland, predictable electropop formula that Charli had been playing with up until that point. Now, linking up with the PC music label and bringing on A.G. Cook and Sophie to do some production and writing on this EP helped make that possible. And her connections to the PC music label continue on this new tape over here, though in comparison with Vroom Vroom, Number One Angel is decidedly less experimental. It sounds like Cook and company are doing their best to support Charli in a poppier endeavor. Number One Angel seems more like an even compromise, although I am skeptical of Charli and PC music going in this direction, because that's pretty much what they did on the After Party single, which, considering everyone that was involved with that track, I thought I would have loved it, but that song was an utter disappointment to me. Now, sadly, Charli and her producers moving in this direction on this mixtape, the results are a little less refreshing, but I guess there is a bit of a trade going on here, because while Number One Angel is not really that kooky or off the wall, the songs do feel more fleshed out, a little more mature, a little better written. You know, there's definitely a more straightforward electropop vibe on this record with some hip-hop undertones, some contemporary rap undertones here and there. But there's just enough quirk to keep things interesting, keep things from sounding generic, keep things from turning completely run-of-the-mill. The opening track, Dreamer, takes me back to the electrifying swagger of a lot of tracks on that Vroom Vroom EP, but now it's set against this huge, spacious, luxurious instrumental with loads of bouncy bass, which is enhanced with this tight auto-tune feature from Stara and a great verse from Ray. Charli XCX dominates the chorus and the bridge on this thing. She almost feels like a feature on her own song because she doesn't sort of do a verse officially on this track, but it's still a good opener to the record and an interesting sort of take between Charli and her producers on sort of what is the contemporary sound of pop right now. And there are plenty of other tracks on this thing that seem to balance Charli's pop sensibilities with PC music's eclectic style. The song LIPGLOSS, the closer on this thing, I keep it icky sticky like lip gloss, which has this super bright, sugary, quirky hook. It's very hyper, it's very futuristic, it's very synthetic, and it's very sweet on the ears, but then that is contrasted greatly by the very gritty and graphically sexual verse that Cupcake brings to the table, which is packed with an iCarly reference. Having Cupcake on this track, in my opinion, is huge. I mean, I've never really been a huge fan of a single project of hers. Her music has always kind of been spotty, a little inconsistent, but she does a fantastic job on this track. She's just what the song needed to make that sweet just a little bittersweet. The song Roll With Me features all of these punchy, jittery rhythms, some zany vocal samples, a bit of a PC music calling card. They're chipmunked and and that just creates a lot of musical mayhem in the background. Charli XCX on top of this has this really cool composure. She's smooth, she's sexy, she's singing about this moment of lust or attraction that she seems to be having to this guy in the club, and she doesn't want that moment to end, so she's asking this guy to come with her, to leave with her, to roll with her. The song I Love You Too is similarly boomy, synthetic, futuristic. I love the track's blaring guitar chords, or they're probably a synth patch or something like that, on the pre-chorus, and the refrain is pretty anthemic. And the track Emotional is probably the strongest tune that this record has to offer. This thing has a huge, inspiring hook, and it sounds more mature than anything that was on Sucker. However, I wish there was more to speak of on the instrumental side of things. PC music's wild personality doesn't really show up in the beat on this thing, unfortunately. They played it really straight, they played it really plain. Again, I just wish that there was more to say about this instrumental. It just kind of goes through the motions of supporting Charli, which is fine. I guess it's cool to hear Charli putting out more music where where the beat isn't the centerpiece, the beat isn't the star of the show. It's her vocal performance and her vocal melodies that are making the track so great, which is also kind of the case for the very low-key and intimate White Roses, which has this very alluring, sexy vibe to it. Then we have the also straightforward Baby Girl, which features this vintage throwback synth pop beat. Sounds like something straight out of the 80s. Charli XCX's very sensual vocal performance here plays toward that vibe too. I love everything about this track, from the glistening instrumental to the very, very sexy verses to the bubbly hook. The one hitch on the track I would say is Uffy's feature. I mean, it's very peppy. It's just the amount of brightness that I think the track needed to pick things up a little bit, just to add a little bit of contrast, a little bit of diversity amongst the track. But she comes in with what sounds like this inflection that is, ugh. Is it a fake patois? I have no idea what the hell she's doing when she enters the song, because she sounds ridiculous. It does make me cringe a little bit, although ultimately I don't think it ruins the song entirely. It's so short. She's really like a blip on the radar of this song. It's like a quarter of a feature. There are moments though on this album where I think the material trends a little too close toward bland. Blame It On You is a track that isn't completely run-of-the-mill in my opinion, but the beat is so uninspired in comparison with many of the other instrumentals on this thing, especially since it doesn't change in any significant way. On the hook feels anemic, very unsupported. The song comes off kind of like a cold fish, in my opinion. I feel roughly the same about the track Drugs. And 3 AM, while it is a very bouncy, upbeat tune, comes off like anybody could have produced it in this obnoxious trend that everybody is going through right now, where it seems like everybody has to come through with some Caribbean-tinged, dance hall-tinged pop anthem. All that being said, there were only tracks on this album that underwhelmed me. Nothing I really hated or thought was awful. I think Number One Angel is one of Charli's most consistent projects yet, but if there is a persistent problem that I think continually weighs her music down, it has to be the lyrics. And not that the Vroom Vroom EP was super deep lyrically or anything like that, but it was at least kind of left field and quirky and abstract and silly, playful. Lyrically, Number One Angel toes the line for typical pop pap. And I get that Charli makes pop music, and there's nothing wrong with making pop music. I don't think the lyrics on this album are total trash or offensively bad. They're just kind of run-of-the-mill, very cliche, which is surprising to me considering that it seems like she's trying to take a very artsy approach with her songs, especially on the production end of things. And why that sense of adventure stops at the lyrics, I'm not totally sure. Still though, while Number One Angel is less adventurous than Vroom Vroom in comparison, I do think this is a step in the right direction, because while I loved Vroom Vroom, I didn't come away from that anticipating that Charli XCX forever would just be coming out with this super experimental, weird, abstract pop music for the rest of her career. I mean, she already has an established fan base who probably isn't that interested in that. So again, not surprised to hear her move in a more accessible direction with this over here, and hopefully Number One Angel brings her closer to coming out with an album very soon that is able to successfully balance her wishes to write these pop tunes, write these pop anthems, but maybe with lyrics that bite a little harder, a little more memorable, and backing all of this up with the unique production that PC Music continues to provide. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Would you rate it? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't die, because then you can't watch more of my videos. Speaking of which, other videos next to my head that you should check out, subscription to the channel button too, official website as well. And have a nice day.